we're going to start with why a sign-up form is so important, or rather the types of sign-up forms that you can have on your website to collect subscriber information. So we have, of course, a pop-up, which a lot of you are probably familiar with. We've all seen those on websites that we've visited, a pop-up type form. And that's the type that we're going to be focused on creating today. But you, of course, have header, footer opt-ins, a scrolling sign-up, and then an exit form type of sign-up. But today we're going to focus specifically on a pop-up. And so there's often a stigma, right, with a pop-up form. So, you know, the idea is that if it's intrusive or, you know, is somehow preventing your website visitor from seeing information, we don't want it to, prevent them from seeing anything, right? So it's still thought of as being intrusive, or there's still a stigma attached to it. But there are some benefits, obviously, to having a sign-up form, and we really think those outweigh any type of annoyance factor, right, that they might have. So there's still the best performing sign-up form option, so this pop-up opt-ins. And we found that really well-crafted pop-ups can have up to a 10% conversion rate on average. And we, of course, have seen some that get as high as 50%. There's obviously a lot of other things that go into that, but the proof is really in the pudding here, right? So we can see that by having a sign-up form, we are able to improve conversion rates just by having those. So we want to talk a little bit about some best practices that you should keep in mind. These are just some general ideas. Obviously, you have to think in terms of your business needs and the type of business that you're running. But just some general ideas that we want you to keep in mind when you are building your sign-up form. So number one, you want to really think about the context. So you want that form to be very quick, very clear with your message. You don't want the subscriber to have to read through a large amount of text to find out exactly what it is they're signing up for. So something that's going to be very quick, very clear, easy for them to read, easy for them to understand exactly what they're opting into. It's also a good idea to have some sort of offer with your opt-in. So a coupon, or really spell out, hey, if you sign up for these messages, we're going to send you some tips. We're going to send you some information that's going to help you do something. So having a really clear offer. Timing also plays a very big part. So pop-ups that don't appear immediately convert much better. And we're going to show you how to do that with our pop-up form, with our builder, how you can control when the subscriber, or the website visitor rather, since they're not a subscriber yet, when that site visitor is going to see that form. So you can have some control over how quickly they see that. But again, those that don't appear immediately convert better. And then finally, they should appear once per visit. And we can also do that with our form builder. So we'll show you how to set the cookies, is what they're called. So in other words, we're going to be able to dictate how soon, or rather not again at all, if they sign up and then visit again, or they visit one day and see the form. We don't want them, if they come back a couple of days later, to see the sign up form again. So that could obviously be considered intrusive. So we're able to control that, but you want it to appear once per unique visit. So the first time they visit your site, they're going to see that pop-up form. So just some general best practices to keep in mind as you're building your sign-up form. So let's hop right into the demo. I'm going to minimize my screen here, and we are going to go into the WhatCounts platform. So for those of you listening who are on our SaaS platform, the form builder feature is turned on for you. So you should see this in your realm or your account. If you have multiple realms, multiple accounts, you should see it turned on for all of them. If for some reason you do not, please let your account manager know. If you are on a broadcaster appliance, so you're not using our SaaS platform, you will need to contact your account manager or your technical account manager and let them know that you'd like to use this feature, and they can get it enabled for you. But again, if you're on the SaaS platform, you should see the feature there. So our form builder can be accessed from our navigation bar on the left. And again, we're just viewing the WhatCounts platform here. And it's going to be under subscribers. And then I'm going to go down to sign up form builder. So I have a couple of sign up forms that I've already built in this particular account. And this is going to be true for all of you. You can have multiple sign up forms in the same account. Obviously, you could have those hosted different places. So if you have multiple websites, you can certainly host those in different locations. And we have a couple here that we've already built, but I'm going to walk you through building a new one from scratch. So to start, we're going to click on the Add button here in the top right. And before we can actually get into the builder itself and start choosing our components and setting our components, there's a couple of things that we're going to have to decide up front. So the first one is going to be the name of the form. So this is whatever you'd like to call your form. Nothing that your subscriber or website visitor is going to see. So whatever is going to make it identifiable for you is what you want to choose. So I'm going to enter a name here. And then we can do a description as well. So again, a description that is meaningful to you. The description is optional, so we don't have to have a description. I'm going to just use the same name I've chosen for my actual form name. And then we're going to select the type of form. So we've got a number of different options. Single list lightbox. So that, of course, means that when the subscriber signs up via that form, if we've chosen single list, they're going to be added to a single list that you have. So a list that you're hosting with WhatCounts, and you, of course, have to have a list in place. So we'd have to go through the steps of creating a list, giving it a name. You don't have to have any subscribers on it, but you do have to have that list, completely set up. So single list, exactly what it sounds like. And then a modal is a pop-up that is centered over the website while the background is grayed out. So you have options for inputs like checkboxes and things like that, which we're going to see in just a bit. So that's going to be a light box. And then, of course, we have a multi-list light box. So the same type of pop-up, but in this case, the subscriber can choose to sign up for multiple lists. So if you have multiple lists that you're hosting with WhatCounts, the subscriber, when they're signing up via that pop-up form, can decide which list they want to be added to. And then the last option is a banner. And the banner option only supports a single list, so we don't have a multi-list option for banner. But a banner differs from a pop-up in that it is fixed to the top or bottom of a website. So it's not going to be centered. And banner sign-up forms allow for fewer input fields. So that's a big reason why we can't have the single list. So if you have a number of different fields that you want to have the subscriber fill out or information you want them to give to you, then a single list lightbox or a multi-list lightbox is what you're going to want to go with. So a banner would be just give me your name, give me your email address. So very basic information. So I'm going to choose for this example the single list lightbox. And then I'm going to choose the list for this form. So in other words, when someone signs up via this form, gives me their information, what list are they going to be added to when they sign up? So I'm going to choose from my pull-down menu here. I have my Mountaintop Outfitters newsletter list that I've created. So when I complete this form, put it on my website for hosting, someone signs up, they're going to be added to my Mountaintop Outfitters newsletter. And then the final option that I'm going to choose, or the decision rather, that I'm going to make, is whether I want this to be hosted by WhatCounts or self-hosted, meaning you or your company are hosting the form. So hosted, and this is the recommended option. I'm going to tell you why we recommend this. But what happens here is the sign-up form, once it's generated, once you've built it out, and we're going to go through the process of showing you how to deploy it. Once it's deployed, it's going to be hosted with Amazon Web Services, which some of you are probably familiar with, their cloud services program. Any changes made to the form through the WhatCounts tool, if you choose this option, will automatically be reflected on your website. So in other words, if a couple of months down the road, you decide, oh, I want to add another field, I want to add another component to this sign-up form, you can come into WhatCounts, make those changes, redeploy it, and the changes on your website. All right, so you don't have to go into your website and make those changes there. If you want the ability to do that, however, if you want to make the changes in WhatCounts, but then you also perhaps want to, make the changes on your website, you can choose the self-hosted option. So that's going to be the download and host, and then deploy to cloud automatically is where WhatCounts is going to make those changes and it's live on your website. So the download and host is going to be helpful for those of you who aren't able to host a form in the cloud for security or compliance reasons. So if you have anything like that that's a concern, you can choose the download and host option. The caveat here is that any updates to the form will require updating the form and the web page on your hosted site to reflect any updates that you make here in WhatCounts. So they would not be live immediately on your website. So again, we recommend the deploy to cloud automatically, but the other option is available, understanding that sometimes there are security and compliance reasons. So then I'm going to click Save. And you'll notice there are a number of components that are there by default. So the reason for this is because in the WhatCounts platform, we identify a subscriber by their first name and their email address. So that's the unique identifier for a subscriber. So when you're building your sign-up form, first name and email address are there by default. You can remove the first name component if you don't want to collect a first name. You can remove that. Email address, of course, is absolutely required. So we can't have it without the email address. But I want to walk you through adding a few new components. I'm going to show you how to do some styling, how to preview the form so you can see what it looks like on the site. And then we're also going to add an image. So you'll be able to add your logo, if you like, for your company. So we're going to start here on the left-hand side. And I want to show you the components that we have to choose from. The first one is the header title. And that, of course, is we have one here by default, join our mailing list. You can remove this. So if you don't want a header or title for your sign-up form, we can click the garbage can icon that's all the way to the right and just remove that. We can edit the one that is here. So we would click on the pencil icon and you'll see this opens up for us. We have our copy here at the top. You, of course, can change the copy. We can change the size. So if I wanted to change this, and you'll see it updates it for you in real time. You can see immediately what it's going to look like. I can change the alignment. So perhaps I want to center this or move it to the right. And then I can also choose the color. So we have our color chart here. We can decide what we want the color to be, and we'll see that it changes it for us immediately. But again, if we don't want that, if we don't want a header or title, you can certainly remove it. The other component we have is a paragraph. So this is a great option if you wanted to include a little message for the person who's going to sign up, sort of telling them what they can expect to receive. So this is just a placeholder. We can edit it and type in whatever message you'd like to have here. So sign up here for, special offers, or just some sort of way to let the subscriber know what they can expect to receive when they're signing up. So again, if we don't want that component, we can remove it. Maybe we've changed our mind. We can also do an image. So this is a great way to bring in your logo. And again, for all of the components, I'm simply just dragging the one that I want over to the right. And here's my image. And you've got a couple of options in terms of where you want to host this image. So we're going to click on the pencil icon, and then we're going to see an image URL. So you can host your images, and some of you may already be doing this with your email campaigns that are going out in your templates. You can host your images with WhatCounts, and we give you a publicly accessible URL, and we would just update the URL here. You, of course, can also host the images yourself if you would like to host those on your own server. You can certainly do that. You would just update the image URL. So I actually have a URL here that I'm going to grab and post here. So we're going to remove this. And I've put in my Mountaintop Outfitters logo, and you'll see that it just populates it there. I can click the checkbox indicating that I'm okay with that. And we can also do some text fields, radio buttons, and drop downs. So what I'm going to add to this particular form, I am going to do a last name. So I do want to capture the subscriber's last name. So I'm going to bring over my text field option. And you can move these around. So I can grab any of these and just sort of reshuffle them here. So I'm going to click on my pencil icon to the right. This is my label placeholder. And I'm going to enter last name here. And you'll see that it updates it for me in real time. We can also do a placeholder. And all that means is that where the subscriber would click, so where the field where they'd actually fill in that information, it's going to tell them exactly what they need to enter there. Although first and last name are pretty self-explanatory, but you can choose to enter a placeholder. And then we're going to choose the field in the subscriber record. So in other words, the field on the WhatCounts side that when they fill in this particular component, what is it going to update in their record? So when this person signs up, gives us their last name, I want that to map to my data field called last. And so this is just a standard field on the WhatCounts side. I am going to show you an example using a custom field. So we're going to set up some preferences in this particular form, and I'll show you how you map that to a custom field. So I've mapped my last name, and then I'm going to do the same thing with my first name. So I'm going to click again my pencil icon. I want to fill in a placeholder here, and then I'm going to map it to my last name field. You can also, for any of the fields or any of the text fields, radio group, data checkbox, your drop down, anything like that, we can make those required. So you'll see there's a checkbox here that indicates it's a required field. So you can do that for any of those. Maybe you want to just, if they'll give you the information, great, but maybe you don't want to make it required. So we could uncheck this if we didn't want this field to be required. Just simply uncheck it and click it there. Email address, of course, is required. Absolutely. We can't do anything without email address. So in that case, we don't have to map it to anything the same way that we would with our first and last name. So let's take a look at a couple of our other options here. We have a drop-down box that we can choose from, our component here. We'll pull it over to the right-hand side. Again, we have a label placeholder. So I'm going to click my pencil icon. And earlier, I set up a custom field called T-shirt preference. So we're a outdoor clothing company, Mountaintop Outfitters, and you can use these drop-down menus for things like that. So I want to set a preference. Tell me what type of T-shirt you like is the example we're going to use here. Do you prefer cotton or do you prefer dry fit, right? And we're going to map it to a custom field on the WhatCounts side, and then we can use that for segmenting down the road. So I want to send to everybody who likes cotton T-shirts, or I want to send to everybody who prefers dry fit T-shirts. So you will need to set up a custom field in your WhatCounts account, and you can do that here under subscribers and then custom fields. So if you're going to do anything like the example I'm going to show you, you will need to have a custom field created. You will need to assign it a data type. So what type of data are you going to store in that particular field? So in this case, I'm going to call this drop-down menu T-shirt preference. And then I'm going to map it to a field on the WhatCounts side. So I've created that custom field called T-shirt preference. So I'll see this in my pull-down menu. I can make this a required field if I want. And then I can change the alignment as well. So you'll see there's an option here for alignment. So essentially, I'm just aligning the pull-down menu under the label. You'll see how that changes if I uncheck that. And then I'm going to choose my values. So in other words, what options are they going to see when they click that pull-down menu? So I'm going to add cotton and dry fit. And I don't know if that's one word or two, but we'll just go with one. All right, so these are the two options. So when a subscriber signs up via this form, they're going to see T-shirt preference and then these two options. But again, we're mapping it to a field on the WhatCounts side, so you will need to create a custom field in order to do that. So I'm going to check the box here. And we've got our T-shirt preference there. The other thing I want to show you is the option to do something called a hidden field. So a hidden field is essentially a field that is going to collect information. We can assign on the WhatCounts side what it's going to collect, but it's not going to be visible to the subscriber or the person signing up. So a really good option for using a hidden field is to track the sign-up source. So I want to be able to see where this person signed up. So it's a good idea if you're hosting the form in different locations, which you can do, to be able to see specifically where that subscriber signed up. So to use the hidden field option, I'm going to drag this onto my builder here on the right. And you'll see I have hidden fields here. I'm going to click the pencil icon. I'm going to give the hidden field a name, and I want to track sign-up source. Again, not anything that your subscriber will see. And then I'm going to map it to a field on the WhatCounts side. So I've gone in earlier and created a custom field called sign-up source. So I'll see that in my pull-down menu. And then I'm going to give it a value. So in other words, when they are filling out this form, what do I want WhatCounts to store? So what value am I going to store in the subscriber record when they fill this out? So I'm just going to do website. You could give this something a bit, make this a bit more detailed, whatever is going to make it identifiable for you, right? So then we're going to check the box here. So I've got my hidden field component pulled in. And then we encourage everyone, this isn't added by default, but I would really encourage everybody to add this to your form. It's called hidden CAPTCHA. And some of you are probably familiar with this term. We're going to drag this over onto our form. It can go anywhere on the form because it's not going to be visible to the human eye, right? So anybody, any person who's visiting your website and signing up for your newsletter via the form is not going to see this field. And that's the whole purpose, is we want to prevent any bots or anybody who is not signing up legitimately from being added to your subscriber list. So you can just drag this component over onto your sign up form. And if we click the little icon here in blue to the left of the garbage can icon, it's going to tell you a little bit about how this honeypot method works. So again, just prevents spam bot from hacking your subscription form. Not going to interfere with the user experience whatsoever. It's not anything that they will see. But the way it works is that when the form is submitted, so let's say there is a bot who's spamming your form, when it's submitted, if that hidden field is filled, it's going to block the submission and that subscription is going to fail. So again, a really simple, easy way to ensure that your subscribers are legitimate. We don't want your form being spammed and then, ending up on a blacklist somewhere. So really good idea to have that added. Again, anywhere on the form that you want to place it, doesn't matter where it goes, because it's not going to be visible to your subscriber. So not going to interfere with their experience. So the next option we have here beyond our components. So I'm going to keep this one pretty straightforward. First and last name, email address. I am going to track the sign up source so I can see where these subscribers are coming from. In this case, I want to see that they're coming from my website. And then I'm going to ask them for their t-shirt preference. So you, of course, can add additional fields. We could capture things like date of birth, any type of preferences. So if you want to store preferences, how often do you want to hear from us? What types of mailings do you want? You can do things like that. We could do a drop down, radio button, of course, just assign, a label to them, whatever you want to call them. And then you want to create a field on the WhatCounts side to store that data for the subscriber, so you can use it for targeting those subscribers. So the next thing we want to talk about is some styling for the form. So we've got a number of different options, and I've just clicked on the style button to the left of components. And here's where I can change the font that appears on my form. I can change the text color, the background color of my form, some animation, things like that. So let's say I wanted to change this here, and you'll see how it changes for me in real time. And maybe I don't like that, so I'm going to try something different, and you'll see how the font changes. I can also change the text color. So you'll see how the field labels change to blue there. I can do the same for my background color. So maybe I want to make this a different color as well. And then I can choose some animation. So in other words, how do I want this form to behave when it's on my website? Do I want it just to fade in? Do I not want any animation? And you'll see here there's a number of different options that you can choose from. Your border color, so the border surrounding the form, I can change that and do a different color. And then the border width can also be changed. So if I wanted to make the border a bit thicker, I can increase that here. And then your radius as well. So you guys can kind of play around with that and just see the different things that you can do in terms of styling. Under extra, so this is where I can choose a confirmation message, essentially. So what is that subscriber going to see once they click subscribe, right? So they filled out, in this case, first name, last name, email. They've told me their t-shirt preference, and they've clicked subscribe here at the bottom. So we've got our subscribe button. once they do that, is there a particular message that I want them to see? So you'll see here we have just a default message, thanks for subscribing, but you can choose something custom if there's something you in particular want to say or want them to see rather after they sign up, then you can do that. You can do that here. And then the modal auto close time in seconds. So this is set to 0 currently, which means it's going to close automatically. The subscriber or the person signing up is not going to have to do anything, right? They click subscribe, they see the message, and it goes away. If you want them to see that for a period of time, or you want them to have to X out of it, then you can increase the auto close time. So if you wanted it to be 5 seconds, 10 seconds, what have you, we can increase that number here. But again, it is set to close on its own. So it is set to 0. And then we're going to go ahead and save this. And then we'll move right into deploy. But I want to first show you how we can preview it from here. So there's a preview option in the upper right. And this is sort of what it might look like for your subscriber. Now, obviously, once it's on your website, you've got some choices about where it's going to be. I'm going to show you that in just a minute. We can put it behind an element on the website. So you have some options in terms of where it's going to be placed on the website. But this is going to give you an idea of what it might look like for a subscriber. So you will have to forgive my design skills here. Hopefully you guys can do something a bit better. But this will give you, again, just a preview so you can see what it will look like for the subscriber. So again, we have our join our mailing list at the top. We've got our logo, first name, last name, email address, and then the t-shirt preference, and then your subscribe button. So I didn't mention this, but with email, you can change this. I mean, it is a required field, but if you wanted it to say email address, it just defaults to email, but you can do that. And then, of course, we can have our placeholder here too. And then we check it once we're done there. So the final step is going to be to deploy our form, right? So we've completed the form, we've previewed it. Now we're ready to deploy our changes and get it ready to go on our website. So if we want to launch from a button, you will need to give us here the ID of the HTML element on your site. So in other words, where is this going to be placed? You would provide that here, whatever that number is, and then you'll see that the deploy button turns green. So you'll be able to deploy it, and it goes away once you take that out. We can also launch from a timer. So this means that you'll see there's a number of seconds. What this means is that once your site has loaded, how soon is the subscriber or the website visitor, rather, going to see that form? So if we set it for, let's say, 15 seconds, once your site is completely loaded, that 15 seconds begins. So 15 seconds after the site has loaded, the website visitor is going to see that pop-up form and would be able to sign up from there. So you, of course, can do whatever you'd like, if it's 20 seconds, 30 seconds, what have you. And then the last option here is the days for cookie to expire. So we talked about this a little bit earlier. We were looking at some of those slides about how important it is to make sure that they expire immediately. So we recommend not having a set time here. You can choose to do that if you want it to be 3 days or 5 days. So what that means is that if that same person comes back to your site a couple of days from now, they're going to see the form again versus those cookies not being stored, and they would not see it again. So you do have some options here. You can click on these little question marks to the right of it, and it will remind you essentially of what that's for. So setting it to 0 means that cookie is going to be cleared immediately. And then we do mention here too that the number of seconds that you set is going to be after your site loads completely. So if there's a little bit of time for your site to load, and maybe you're testing this yourself once you've built it out. If it takes 20 seconds for your site to load, it's going to be 40 seconds, before you see the sign up form. So just bear that in mind. So we're going to do 0 for our cookies here. And then I'm going to choose my deploy option. And we'll give it just a moment to think. So it tells you here at the top, the form has been saved, it's been deployed. I can X out of that. And then what this does is it gives you a script that you can place on your website. So you'll see there's a reference here to Amazon in this script, but this of course was the option that we chose. We wanted to host it in the cloud. So you would simply take this script and place it on your website. And then again, if you come, decide a month later, you come back into WhatCounts, you want to make some changes, we would simply open this form back up, make those changes, save it, and then the changes are live on your website. So you don't have that added work of having to go into your website and make those changes. All right, so let's save this again. Should be ready to go. Okay, guys. So that is it for the form builder demo. I think you'll see, or you have seen rather, that it's very, very user friendly. So you don't have to know any HTML. You don't have to know any CSS. Does it all for you. You can see straight away what the form is going to look like. So I hope you'll all find some benefit in using this. We do have a little bit of time before our official end. So if anybody has any questions, please feel free to ask those. I'm going to hang out for a couple of minutes. I'll be happy to answer those for you. Just use the raise hand tool that is in your control panel, and I will get those answered for you. Thank you all so much for joining me. One thing, guys, for those of you who are still listening, I did get a question about if you can see what the form looks like on a page. Our marketing team is actually going to be placing a sign-up form on our website later today that they built using our sign-up form builder. So please look for that on the whatcounts.com page later today. We're going to have that there. So I unfortunately don't have a website that I can place it on for you. Sorry about that. But you will be able to see what it's going to look like on the WhatCounts page later today. So they did build that using our sign-up form.